mess around. I actually left that game to go to a side.
Turn Pon Pon up. I can't hear him.
Nice.
Because Aladdin was literally flying across the map. It was great.
He's not supposed to do that. That's not a new buff.
That's not a new buff.
Okay.
He's not supposed to fly across the map, but he was today.
Okay. Well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today, guys. I think the thing that's on everybody's mind, you're a little quiet. So maybe pull the mic a little bit closer to you.
It already is basically
Still
here.
quiet.
Do I have a knob?
Oh,
Is it going to be this?
I don't know.
Oh,
Oh, no.
no.
Can we... let me try this. Okay, say something now.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing. Let's see.
Looks like it's picking
Talking.
up. Is it better?
Is it better?
Yes. Chat?
I could just talk louder.
Same.
Same.
Some people are saying... it's only a little quiet. Okay.
Actually, hold on.
You try that other one?
Is this the mic?
Is that better?
Is that better? I think it's going to be this. No, that's
No,
the headphones.
not better. Chris says not better. Much worse. Okay. Well, we're going to make it work with what we have because we don't know how to do
I will just try to talk louder.
Yes. So we're just going to talk louder. It's going to be fine. Sorry, chat. As I said, show will be a little bit scuffed today. Isaiah's out, and Hindu Man, the other person who actually knows how to fix things in here, is sick today. So it's just us. We're flying solo.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Blink.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Some people have been talking about Blink in the community.
I'm not sure why.
I'm not. Yeah, it just came out of nowhere. No, I think.
Oh, boy.
It's been awesome to see passionate reactions.
Yes.
Right. Like, the worst thing that can happen for a game is when we do something that is big and nobody cares.
Yes.
Right. The good thing is that people care. About both sides of this issue. Right. There's been a lot of really good discourse in the community. For people who have not seen what happened, you're probably not watching the show if you haven't seen what happened, but regardless, we disabled Combat Blink for a test on Wednesday afternoon. And the reason why we disabled Combat Blink was because we had some beliefs that we thought that it might be shifting the game. In
Two
kind
people
of a
calling, nobody else has how to
way
remedy the
that
issue.
We had
They
some
fucking
thoughts
laid
about
everybody
how it was
off,
doing
man.
it, but we didn't maybe truly understand what it was doing.
That's not even a joke. That's literally just like these small things are a byproduct of just having less people on hand. I'm not even kidding. I wasn't even saying that as a joke. Like with layoffs, this is
and different in a way that can. My personal belief was that it could potentially lead to more fun moments, but less fun fights or games. You know.
Yeah.
Because it gives you those super hype play moments, but then it's like, if you're not on the side of the person doing it, it feels bad more than it feels good kind of thing.
Right.
And
I don't know if I agree with that because, like, if somebody blinks on me mid-animation chalkall, I'm not like, oh, that's lame. Like, it just is what it is. I don't think about it negatively when it happens to me.
To do things with Blink.
If people blink and escape, I guess that's frustrating, but not when they blink engage. I don't feel.
The best number for it feels good to do things with Blink, and the worst number for it feels bad to have things done against me with Blink. Right. So.
I still don't agree. I think somebody engaging on me with Blink isn't really frustrating.
Because we track every
people getting away with Blink, I understand would be frustrating, but I don't think engaging on me.
Cursory glance at the data so far,
except for the Morgan,
who can blink every 2 seconds. We've been surprised that, like, numerically, it doesn't seem like it's actually changed the game very much from what we can see.
Yeah, there are some easy stats we can gather, like how have kills changed over the course of the game? What's the average?
Blink escapes more frustrating. Yeah,
like
that's why. Like they asked a question in the survey that was like, "How do you feel when somebody blinks and survives?" And I was like, I don't feel like this is a good question because if you said, "How does it feel when somebody aegis and survives?" It's equally annoying. How do you feel if somebody blinks or beads and survives? It's like it's all annoying. I'm never going to be like, that was good. That was a fun interaction.
Player behavior stuff. Like, that's a lot harder of a question to answer that you can't get at a glance. So you have to parse the data.
Are they reverting? No, I think this is a weak test, Snuffle.
Data is not that different, actually.
I have one little soapbox that I'm going to get on before I get into where we're going from here.
Yes.
And it is there is one take in the community that I'm going to ask kindly we step back from, and you probably won't, but I'm going to do it a little bit. A lot of people are saying that if you don't like Combat Blink, it's a skill issue. Sure. And you aren't good enough at the game, and you aren't smart enough to be able to punish a 4-minute cooldown timer to go back and gank the lane again or whatnot. we have not viewed it in that way because it's less about this is good for good players, this is good for bad players. It's more about how does it impact the overall feel and flow of the game for all players, right? Yeah. And it's not just like
the point they're missing about that sentiment. While some people are using it to shit talk other players, I understand.
Or use Blink.
The issue is when Weekend describes Combat Blink and why he doesn't like it. It's not a skill issue excuse. When other people describe, I say, explain to me why you don't like it. Sometimes the reasoning they describe is a skill issue. It's not necessarily you don't like Combat Blink, so you must be bad. That's not what, well, some people are probably saying that. That's not what I and some of the other prominent people that are advocates of Combat Blink are saying. They're saying the reasoning that you're choosing to not like Combat Blink is something to do with your skill. That's what we're saying. We're saying the justification for you not liking Combat Blink and the examples that you're providing to us are relative to your skill level. There is a correlation between low-level players not liking Blink because of certain things that tell me they are a low-level, low-skill player. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But it's not saying if you don't like it, you're low-skilled. It's that the reasoning you're giving generally leads me to believe that you're relatively a low-skilled player. And there's nothing wrong with that.
And you can't just immediately blink away.
Might be the worst. Oh, hold on.
So I don't think it's even a zero-sum game in the sense of the game becomes less skillful.
No, they're not saying that. They're saying they're bringing everything very simple. Kyle, think of it as a follow. They're simplifying it to saying they want people to stop saying if you don't like Combat Blink, it's a skill issue.
I've seen a lot of people say
what I'm saying is the reasoning they're giving me is skill-related concerns.
But
right?
Blink does the same thing.
They might not get a lot of kills in a game, so that two times that they could have gotten a kill in a game and somebody blinks away, that's a huge deal to them,
it kind of
right? Whereas a lot of higher-end players, like, there's plenty of
How is
opportunities.
that
I'm going to get
different?
kills here in the next few minutes. We can force a fight around gold.
The
It is
two
a
things
skill
that we
assessment
thought
issue
were testing about
that
this
they
lead
don't know how to punish, right? Because they're not advanced enough at the game or even the players. Like, maybe your jungler isn't taking advantage of it. There's a lot of different things.
Don't hear people complaining about other people using beads and Aegis in the same way that I hear that be like, oh, that guy blinked away, right? It's a moment of frustration, I think, that's hits your psyche a little bit different than beads or Aegis.
Yeah.
Which is why we wanted to test what it looks like without that.
Yeah, and for another point is we could have probably gone softer on like how we decided to test it. But and I've seen some people try to aggregate data on this and get different numbers than we have internally about like the usage rate. Blink in all modes, ranked and casual, was being used 2-to-1 over beads.
Yes.
In casuals more, but still even in ranked 2-to-1.
Yes.
To the point where the average game that people were playing would have 4 to 5 blinks in them. That was the expectation. You probably had 4 to 5 blink, 2 to 3 beads, and then 1 Sunder Aegis shell, right?
Yeah, and
that's like when that's that warping, when it's a potential feels thing and not a balance thing, when it's a potential feels thing and it's that warping of what people are doing, and you now have to recognize that every fight's going to have potentially 5 of these going off. That's, I think, the part where we wanted to run the more extreme version of the experiment with, let's just turn it off.
Yeah, and good news for Blink enjoyers. It's time to move to the next phase of the experiment.
Yeah. So that was all. Just let's card to the table about.
Thank you for the 10 stream streaks.
Yeah, because
we have a second one.
The point of this show is
it's not shitting on those low skill players. When I keep saying that, it's not like you're wrong because you're low skill. I'm just saying the reason you're giving me
because there's been so much conversation about Blink
affects lower skill games,
but anyway,
more than higher tier games.
Phase 2 of the Blink testing. Pon, do you want to talk us through what's going to be happening here?
Yeah, so we have enough data now that we can continue to parse it and answer the questions we want to. So we wanted to get a different
I agree, Spoof.
We want to see how a different type of Blink worked. And so a lot of people are probably going to figure out where this is going. We want to bring back
Bubbles,
Blink
honey.
non-combat. So this is the kind of non-combat version that people are used to in Smite 1 with a slightly different rule set.
Yes,
so this one
some important different rules.
So this one is going to be it's God, ability, and in-hand damage only. So if you deal damage with your in-hand or your abilities, or if someone hits you with their in-hand or their abilities, that will give you a
so like red buff won't prevent it, like if you have tick damage.
Makes it unable to be used.
Yes.
Item effects do not proc this.
Okay, perfect.
Jungle camps do not proc this.
Okay, so red buff, bluestone isn't gonna delay your blink. So this is basically what they're saying is they're gonna give us an opportunity to experience Smite 1 blink that you can cast while channeling abilities. There will be an internal cooldown if you do damage to them with an ability or an auto, or if you receive damage with an ability or an auto. But like a bluestone or a red tick is not going to continually prolong the internal cooldown is what they're gonna try next.
The game you F6,
which I'm more willing to compromise towards that personally.
Cool version of it to try. And
that's why you don't know how to punish players. Well, that's the issue, right? And that's the issue, and that's what I try to provide people. I want your feedback to be better than it's just a get out of jail free card, because
so I think that's the big part to mention is that,
true,
like,
but it's now very punishable. So like when I say to those people like this is a low skill take, it's not saying it's irrelevant. It's just saying
dealt damage in the last 3 seconds.
I want you to be able to give a better argument than it's just a get out of jail free card and only use defensively. Okay, in your experience that possibly happens to you, but in your experience that's probably happening more in low skill lobbies.
Or Fenrir bite and then blink.
Right, silver kids aren't blinking mid soul disapparate to have the area of effect blow up as they're blinking on you and throwing their 2 at the same time to secure a kill. They're not doing that, right? So you probably are only seeing defensive blink usage, and we can debate whether that's good or bad and how to fix it. But I want you to, I want you to try to form a better argument than just it's just only used. It's like for you, it's only used that way. In a lower skill lobby, that's your experience. Doesn't mean it's wrong. I'm just saying that low skill lobby is where you're seeing more of those defensive blink plays, whereas in higher lobbies, I see a bunch of aggressively blink plays, probably at least 40 to 50% instead of maybe 10 in the lower skill lobbies. So it's a different experience for you than it is for some other people.
So again,
which is lower skill lobbies. It's not shitting on those people.
It's just... this is the next phase of the test, right? Yes. We've gathered data on what it looks like with full combat blink. We have now gathered data on what it looks like with no blink whatsoever. We knew that no blink whatsoever was not going to stay long term, right? Now we're going to be testing a more classic Smite 1 blink with some changes, right? This may not be the
This will probably,
final
in my
version
opinion, when I was giving you guys guesses,
just need to take the next step.
I don't think it's likely that we keep combat blink the way it is. Unfortunately, I would like it to stay. That would probably be my vote. I don't think there's a shot in hell we do no blink. This one they're probably going to test now, where it's like a Smite 1 blink on a lower cooldown, but has internal cooldown if you're taking damage, so people can't defensively blink out, but you can still aggressively blink in. I would say, in my opinion, regardless of the feedback they get, I'd say this is probably 75% most likely the route that Smite is going to go. I would prefer combat blink, but I think the compromise is going to be this, to be honest with you.
So hopefully today or tomorrow we will have
that's my guess.
Smite
my official guess. I think it's this
game,
style is probably what we're going to end up seeing.
And then we'll see how it goes, and we'll keep going from there.
For anyone curious about
you can try to implement
not a great bug.
guides. You can try to implement tooltips. It's not going to teach people. People themselves are in charge of their own learning, and that's why people start to vary in skill level. Somebody will there's somebody. I'll get on a MOBA right now, and I will learn. Oh fuck! I just got Sobek plucked. I'm not going to let that happen again. Then there are some people who will go into the Ambassador Discord and be like, "There's no countering this," and you're like, there's plenty of counters to this, right? There's just some people that have like a mind for learning these games, and there's some people that don't. And there's nothing wrong with it, right? But when they get feedback, this is what I'm referencing. Their feedback is just sometimes hard to digest to give to a dev, because it's just like, what do you mean? It's just, I mean, you could,
Cool. Okay, we are
patch
live
notes
with our patch notes.
You know what I'm saying? Some people, you're in charge of your own learning. They can try and hold your hand as much as you want. Creators can try and hold your hand as much as you want. At the end of the day, you're in charge of your own learning. And some people are just going to find reasonings for why they don't like interactions. I didn't get that kill because of Blink. I didn't get that kill because my jungle sucks. I didn't get that kill because my buttons didn't work, right? They're going to find something. We all say it, but there's some people who just don't learn ever.
He's Merlin.
Yeah, he's Merlin. Clumsy already was on the show to give the overview of everything Merlin related.
W Merlin, W Clumsy.
Tweaks based off what we saw on the
God looks great
regarding some balance numbers. I think he changed the way that
W
the
Merlin,
fire
W
stacking
Clumsy,
got
God looks
interacted a
great.
little bit. So there
His-
are a few differences.
His
here, but
aspect
yeah, Merlin's coming to
looks
the battleground.
what could
The
be
classic, stance
fun,
switcher that has a whole bunch of
maybe
different
not
elements and stuff, and
viable
an
at like
aspect I saw a lot
a
of people having
SPL
lot of
level,
fun
but
with.
you never
It has-
know.
It's very
You
interesting
get a
to see
few
how people
combinations that are really,
play
really good
around
in
that
certain
aspect where you
circumstances
just
with a
have-
lower
it's the
cooldown, being able to
casino
swap
game.
through the
It's
Yeah.
just have
stances.
the lottery of what abilities you can
Maybe.
have at any given time.
Jackpot.
It looks fun. I don't know if it
So,
looks
Flicker is one of the
high-end
bigger things
viable,
that's
but we'll
changed in
see.
the base kit where there's extra effects on
The flicker
each
changes are dope.
different
Flicker was
flicker
boring.
type,
Now
so
it's
that's,
cool.
something to play around with when you log into the game. On
Even like
Monday.
a small change like flicker, adding stuff, you being able to
will go live on
choose
March
when to flicker
28th.
in what
So it will
stance
not
to
go
get
live
additional.
on
That
patch
increases
day,
the skill
but it
ceiling,
will
which
go
is always
live
W.
on Friday. So we want
It still allows lower end players to use 3 in the way that they've always known, but it allows higher end players to strategically use the 3
should be a lot of fun. There's also a bunch of new skins in
get
the
the
update.
passive
We won't
benefits
spend
of
a lot
the 3
time
now.
talking about these, but Summable Susanoo.
It
looks
is,
pretty
yeah.
sick,
Yep.
and
But you
has
also
a
have to
new
think
feature for
insane
Smite
burst
2,
has to be followed up
which
with
is prisms.
aggressiveness.
There's more detail later in the
So
project, but
you're
basically,
giving up your
you
escape
can
for the
unlock
insane burst, and it's
additional
probably on still like a
color
24-second cooldown.
variations
So
of this
I
skin,
agree, it's
that are
that's
both
very
the
strong,
skin
but you'd
and
have
the
to be
effects, have a
getting
new
in there,
color
which I like.
So,
Anything
if you
that
wanna
that
further
caters to
customize
aggressive
the
play.
skin, that's something that you can do.
Yep,
Yeah, I definitely
I like it.
using the crimson one.
Anything that caters to aggressive play and
Next, we do have 2 new classic skins
de-incentivizes
that you can get for 100%
defensive
legacy
play. There's
gems.
enough defensive
Those are
strategies
Base
in the
King
game.
Neath and Heaven's Rave Zeus. I will
1v1
note that
scenario,
we do
oh,
not
yeah.
have VXGs yet in game, so
Yeah.
they don't have the function where you
Just
can
mirrored in.
VXG and play the same song together.
Wait a minute.
But
Wait
at
a
some
minute.
point when we add VXGs,
I
I'm
was
sure that
thinking
will
mirrored
come
in 1. What if you
it is on
mirrored
our
in
to-do list to
3?
get the VXGs
What
in.
if I
Just
2
don't
one
be surprised if that isn't there on day 1.
mirrored in
And then cross
3?
skins, we have Cyberclaw Wheelish.
No, because it would reset,
High
and then the
Honor
reset would
Mulan,
expect a
Dawn
3
Spirit
again to
Emoji.
get the cooldowns. Never
And then
mind.
there is a new cosmetic bundle, the Air
Is Combat
Slash
Blink
Jump
back?
Stamp
No.
and Wind Badge
A different
Blade,
form of
which
Blink is going to
in
come
the
back over the
chest
next
with,
day or 2 to check.
This
How do you
Susanoo
guys
skin.
feel
And you
about
can
the
also buy that direct
diamonds
purchase,
for
like all
recolors
skins when you
just
put them
as
in
a
the
form
chest.
to support
You
high
also
res?
have
Does
the
it bother y'all?
Yep.
It
Let's
doesn't
talk
bother
about
me at all.
skins.
I wanted more ways to
Gameplay.
spend money and
This is an
support the
interesting
company.
one.
So if they're
Yes.
just like, here's a few recolors, you can pay diamonds
So
for them to
basically,
help,
I will read
you
I will read
know,
it first.
support,
No,
you know,
let's
the
talk
development of the game. Do you guys, does
gameplay
that bother
movement
y'all?
adjustments. The deceleration when changing directions has
I thought
been
people would be
adjusted.
mad, but I haven't really seen
Gods
people
are
really
able to
care.
more
Doesn't bother
rapidly
me.
change their velocity when changing directions suddenly.
Yeah, so we're doing a lot
I
of
figured some people would be like,
manipulative
well, I can't
stuff
use legacy
just in
gems. It just
general.
seems like a money
Obviously,
grab.
we've talked
It
about
kind of
this
is,
with
but
rework.
like,
This is separate from that. It's kind of
it's in a way that it's just a recolor. You can still get the skin.
But the main of it.
It doesn't bother me either. I wanted more ways to spend money and help them and whatever. So
ever so slightly
as long as it's not crazy
And
expensive for
in
recolor.
regards to how characters feel to accelerate from standing still versus like
New
slightly
pre-match team
turning,
balancer
it
implemented
largely
makes up to
basically
3
maps
player
onto
swaps
one
after
very
finding a
close.
lobby to
But
build the most
difference
balanced
when you
teams.
try
Due to
to
this addition, the
rapidly
base
shoot
matchmaking
across
was
the direction, turn
less
on the
needed,
time
freeing up
180.
those resources to
It
optimize for
actually
faster
causes
wait
you to
times
take
and
longer
closer
to
lobbies
get
and rank
these right back
conquests.
to
These changes
zero and
resulted
then
in
get
a
velocity
minus
back.
80% reduction in average SR difference
Tools that we
from
currently have, we
100
can't
down
map
to
it
20.
1-to-1 to Smite 1,
20%
but this gets us
reduction
a
in
lot
average
closer.
SR
So you
range
actually
from
accelerate and
1500
decelerate
range
faster
to
if you
1200
just, like, you
range.
just stop. You actually
25%
control
reduction
the
in average
faster
wait
than
time.
someone, but this should mean that you
During
can kind
peak
of make it
hours
more
from
wide.
2 minutes
And
45
this
seconds
is,
to 2
I'd
minutes and
say,
5
we
seconds.
won't go to details 'cause this is
Worth
something we'll talk
noting
about
that this
later,
tech was
probably
needed
in the
prerequisite for
podcast.
further
This
development in other
is like
systems such as
phase
matchmaking
one
logic
adjustment
for high SR
making
lobbies.
movement
Those
feel
changes
snappier
may also be
and more
implemented
responsive.
during the course of this patch.
There are things related to animation
Party SR
that
limits.
happen.
Players over
There are
2400
some
SR
other
will no
bugs
longer
on
be able to
cover that I
queue
know
to
are
form a party in
bugging
ranked.
movement that we wanna try
All
to
Ws.
resolve.
All
And
W's right there. Who cares
we'll
if they give
hopefully
you
over
more
the
stuff to
patches
buy?
really
You
knock
don't have to
stuff
buy
out,
it,
as well
but
as
others
programming
can.
is
I
very
agree,
hard to
Wandrin.
movement
That's
so
how I've always
which is a
felt
whole
about
separate
cosmetics in the
architect,
game.
different side of the movement
But
problem.
anytime they
And
make a
they'll be
decision
on
that
hopefully and talk
affects
about that as well, right?
Yeah,
purchasable
Nick,
products
who
in the
was
game,
the tech director on
people
Smite 1
lose
for
their
a long
mind.
time,
So I was trying to
and,
just see if people
is
in here actually
now
cared. If somebody
kind
wanted
of one
to
of the
debate
tech
about
gameplay
whether that's
leads
good or
on-
bad, I can't
on
use my
Smite
legacy
2,
gems on this.
will
That's
be joining us
unfair.
on Wednesday
Blah
of
blah
next
blah
week
blah.
to
Because like
talk
they'll make a
through
decision, they'll make it like only legacy gems, and then people will be like, you guys are just putting stuff out to make me use all of my legacy gems. That's not really fair. And then, no matter what they do, people complain. So I was trying to see what the vibes were around this recolor option for diamonds only. If you want to buy things just to support the company.
We need to work out about
because it's obviously minimal to no work for them, but it brings in a lot of revenue flow since you have to use diamonds. I wanted that because I wanted ways to spend money in the game to support the game.
We need to work through all that stuff.
So I wanted something like this.
Ranked and matchmaking. So Max is sick today, and he couldn't be on to talk about matchmaking, but he wanted us to give an update on all of the things.
Everybody's
that
sick of
have
The
changed about
Office?
matchmaking recently, and some of the
Got like a bug
improvements
going
that we
around?
have seen.
Yep.
So recently we put live a new pre-match team
Players over
balancer
4,400
system as part of our matchmaking.
will
process,
no longer be able to enter a
which
trio
makes up
queue.
to 3
W.
player
Our
swaps
matchmaking rules
after finding
previously
a lobby
heavily
to
incentivized players
build
away
them,
from
ensure
this
that the
trio
teams are
queue.
as
So
balanced
this is the
as
first
possible.
implementation of that formality.
Due to this
That's a W.
addition,
There's
the
no
base
reason people over
matchmaking
4,400
system
SR
was less
need
needed
to be
in
trio
the act of
queuing.
finding
These
balanced
changes may not
teams
be live in
because
OB6.
it could then rebalance
One
the
thing
teams
I'll let
once
you guys
they
know,
were
they do
close
often
enough in the
sneak
band.
little matchmaking
Freeing up
changes
those
into your
resources to
days that
optimize
you
for faster wait
probably
times
don't
and
really
closer lobbies.
recognize unless
In
you're
ranked
actively
conquest,
checking
these changes have resulted
tracker.gg.
in
And even
80%
then, like, you're not
reduction
really going to
in
notice if
average
it's more
SR
accurate.
difference
You probably have to
between
just
teams,
feel how the
from
week
100
felt.
SR to
Like, has it
20
felt better
SR
this
on
week?
average. A
Right? Like,
20%
yeah,
reduction in the
maybe. I
average
don't know.
SR range
I did
in
have a
match
gold
between
kid in my
15
game earlier,
to
but he was
1200.
duo queued with a master,
25%
so,
reduction
you know,
in average
that's
wait time during NA peak.
is what it is.
Instead of waiting 2 minutes and 45 seconds, you will now wait about 2 minutes. It is worth noting that this tech was a needed prerequisite
I gotta
for
pee, I'll be
further
back.
development into other systems, such as new matchmaking logic for high SR lobbies. And those changes may also be implemented during the course of this patch, with info to follow as soon as possible.
Yes.
So that is written by Max, read by me. TLDR, over the past few days, matchmaking has gotten considerably better because of these things that we have rolled out. The places where it is still the worst are for the tippity top SR tier players and for the lowest tier SR players. We are continuing to work on that. This was a step that made the situation better, but we have more work that we know we need to do. We just wanted to give an update that we are moving things in the right direction. And if you haven't played ranked in a while, please play a match or two if you're, if you are a ranked enjoyer, and let us know how the matches are feeling. There's also another change. We are going to be introducing party SR limitations. So players over 2,400 SR apart will no longer be able to form a party for ranked. This is a preliminary value, and we may change this in the future. Players over 4,400 SR in Masters 3 rank will no longer be able to enter a trio queue. Our matchmaking rules previously heavily incentivized people from not doing this, so it's more of a formality. It was very hard to find a match if you did this. And we do have the note that this might not go live with OB6 launch, but it will be live sometime during the course of the update. So most of the remaining really bad matches we found were caused by these really diverse parties, with players of vastly different skill levels. So we think that this will be another step in the right direction. And again, this plus the other stuff we're working on in the background should continue to make matchmaking better and better. Sweet. Prisms. I already talked about Prisms, so I'm not going to read this again.
Prisms,
PC item shop filtering and quality of life. This is Travis.
All right, I saw some of the stuff on Twitter, chat, about the balance of the game, and I'm a tad bit concerned here, so I'll be interested to see their rationale for these
on the PC item shop
changes, because
little tick boxes next to a stat name.
I don't
understand
some of them, to be honest,
to be able to find the right items that we're looking for. So big change.
Yeah, I've been using this a ton in playtest now that we've had it. It's
all
just
of these
much
VFX
nicer
changes,
to
blah blah blah.
find the specific item you want.
For on a first glance,
Princess
I
Barney,
don't
Warding
like
Ducks
some of
has
these
added a
changes
free-fire
from a
wing to the
competitive
clone area.
standpoint. It doesn't make sense to
Very
me.
cool. Targeters have been updated for the following gods.
I like some of them.
Artemis, and
I'm
Anubis.
talking about
Yeah,
them
I know we did
nerfing
get
every
Overhaul
objective
and
in the
things
game.
added on a god-by-god basis.
Already, objectives are just getting burnt
God
in
rolls
like
have been
6,
updated
like it's
to
so
show which
fast.
gods-
I
excuse me,
don't really
we've
understand
updated which
nerfing
gods
every
show
single
in rolls,
objective in the
filtered based on
game.
god play rate in each roll.
Yeah, this
so
was,
we'll-
I asked
let me-
Travis
let
for
me
some data
s-
on
yeah.
something. He gave me back the wall of data, and as part of that data set was actually how each god is being used.
No watch party today, true. Make sure Moist tells
in our
Mel.
first pass when we did the god filters, we were kind of like, yeah, this character could probably play support a little bit and flex a little bit there. So like a lot of gods had 3 roles, which meant that if you search by it, you're like, you were like a newer player or you're like new to Smite 2, you're like, oh, they say this is now this type of role. If that wasn't actually being supported, we don't actually support that now. So like, I had like an arbitrary cutoff I did, but now the role filter should be a lot more representative of how people are actually using the character. There's also some just surprising ones. Like, Afro is, people generally see as a support in mid. She is overwhelmingly support.
Yes.
And Baron, who people see as the support in mid, is slightly favoring support, like barely. And so just like seeing the, like I kind of understood where this.
That's what I'm.
fall,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Those the objectives don't make sense to me at all. The issue is that they're being taken too fast, not too.
Leaderboard updates. This is a big one that Max has been working on in the background.
Okay, W. This is what I've been asking for.
Live ranked conquest leaderboard updates will begin during this patch.
People, okay, and I'm going to say this about high-res. I don't usually say it about the devs, okay? The biggest failure from a quality of life standpoint over the past 10 years is the fact that our leaderboards never fucking work.
Ranked leaderboard was only updating
never work.
And it was only updating once a day.
They never work. They'd be down for 12 months sometimes before we get fixed.
It was a little bit more complicated than just pushing a button. You had to like.
It is more complicated. It is a lot of work to keep this up.
This
but
has now been automated to where
leaderboards are a hidden amount of value. People want to grind for things. I actually said in one of the things when I talked to Isaiah when he asked me like, what would you wish list?
Added new environment art.
Okay, wish list. What do you want more of? I'm talking over them, but they're just showing the map art.
And
I said more leaderboards. Give us leaderboards for worshippers.
This is the new.
People will get on just to maintain number one. This top 10. Kepri worshipper. Like, people will grind for that. Put achievements in the game and give us points for achievements that are visibly, publicly recognizable, that people can see when you're going into games and stuff. People will grind just to hit achievements in your game and give a leaderboard for that. Give people something to grind for, even if it's just some fake, false sense of recognition for playing this game a lot. I promise you, people will do it. Just to have their name at the top of some leaderboard, and it doesn't even have to be ranked. It doesn't have to be exclusive to competitive players. Give worshippers a leaderboard. Give max level a leaderboard. Give achievements. Put achievements in the game so you play a variety of characters, and that gives you an achievement, and you get an achievement for getting on and playing a couple games a day too, and you get achievements for getting cosmetics, which will incentivize product sales. Put more leaderboards in the game and make them fucking work. I promise you the return on the investment will be so fucking good. I promise you.
Power given to minions from 20 to 10.
There are people on certain games who still grind the game just to maintain a spot on the leaderboard that only a couple thousand people play. And they still grind it every fucking day.
Often what ends up happening is like that gets super pushed, and you can make like a fire giant play off that alone.
Reduce bonus
damage you go for and should be valuable, but it was like, especially in the late game, it had too much weight behind it. So that's what this is targeting.
Yes, very very OP. And then also we are making some updates for jungle bosses. We are reducing the base health of Fire Giant from 6,300 to 4,500. For Gold Fury from 2,750 to 22.
Are they increasing the scaling of it?
2,560. Queen Naga 2,250 to 1,800. Pyromancer 2,250 to 1,800. And we're adding a big change to the Pyromancer.
Yes.
When slain, the Pyromancer will deal direct damage to the weakest enemy structure. It deals 250 base damage plus 25 per minute that has passed, not including setup time.
Yep. So
talk about all these objective changes.
So the health changes are base only. They bosses get a lot per level too, so that's not being adjusted here. But we made a lot of pacing changes to Conquest in regards to how much gold you get, when items come online, and we are largely adjusting these health values for that purpose. Outside of that, the Pyromancer change is more just to give us something cool and new and make that objective really worth fighting for. Especially because it drops the relic that lets you actually blow up.
Reduced first blood gold
yes, it does still
from 200 to 75.
This gives you another reason to go for it. It helps put pressure.
Okay, this whole thing I don't like so far. This whole thing right here, I don't like. I don't like.
Stronger versions of this internally. This version's a lot more tame. I believe it's one structure, the weakest enemy structure. It does a good amount of damage. But
this means these can be soloed by one player.
I played in a playtest where.
These are already being soloed by auto speed at 4 minutes.
My Phoenixes from full health to 25% health.
That was the strongest version.
That was not good. I did not enjoy that.
I don't mind the first blood change. Anything that ever de-incentivizes aggressiveness. I want to play aggressive to get this first blood gold.
Health scaling for these objectives.
Yes.
And we saw basically with the changes to pacing with Gold Earn, it was changing how long it took to do the objectives.
Yeah.
This kind of brings it a little bit back towards the way it was before we changed the Gold Earn.
Yeah, right. Like if everyone kind of lost half an item worth of stats at any given point in the game, that's about what this translates to. Because again, Fire Giant's also getting a lot per level as time goes on in the match. So that's largely what these are for.
Yep. And then gold update: we are reducing the first blood gold reward from 200 to 75.
Yep, First Blood, obviously really impactful, being rewarded for it's good, but it can swing games a little bit too heavily on its own, which I want to see what the game feels like.
Auto speed is going to be... Auto
And
speed would...
to be clear, it is not... It doesn't affect
Auto
the amount of
speed
gold
was
you get
clearing
for the
Gold
kill.
Fury
There was an extra
in
bonus
6
gold for it
seconds
being
at
the
minute
First
number
Blood
4 by
that
himself.
We just think was a little
with
bit too
just
much for early game.
Amaterasu, Golden Blade, and now he'll clear it in 4 seconds.
There's a lot of God balance in this update.
Yeah, we...
In
4 seconds, you could probably
general
do Gold
philosophy,
Fury
or
now.
should we just jump right into it?
Told, thank you for the Prime. I think 200 all the way down to 75 is way too big. I think you should have tried 200 down to 125, 150 maybe. This is too much of a nerf.
He's a bit underperforming, and his...
Okay, so I don't like any of these changes. I don't think this makes sense from a balance standpoint. I haven't played it yet, so this is just
and
knee-jerk
I said I was gonna say
reaction.
something at
I
the end of
don't
the
understand
previous
this
section, and
at
I
all.
forgot to.
Haven't played it, obviously, so we'll
Assault
see.
Enjoyers. We're going to have something fun for you during this patch. I don't want to give too much of it away yet, but we are planning an interesting test in live that I think you will all be excited about. So we will have more details soon. It will not be, nothing final, nothing crazy, but we're planning an interesting test in live.
Yeah.
So, cool. That's my teaser. God balance.
Yeah, God
Ares
balance.
buff. Shackles. We are increasing the strength scaling from 25% to 35%. Call to Arms. Ares gains HP 5 while the buff is active on himself. That does not apply to his aspect. And No Escape. The initial pull now has intelligence scaling.
Yeah, so
Keep in mind that is not HP
one
5. That is
goal here
HP
was
per
to make the
second.
hybrid
Keep in
aspect of
mind,
him
we
be
don't do
able to
HP
directly
5 per
felt.
5
The
anymore,
idea
so
is
this
really
isn't
his
30 health for every
advantage
5
and
5
his
seconds.
things are the things
You,
that really
when
impact
your
his
2 is
strength.
active, you'll be gaining
And
30
his
health
fire
per
burn
second.
stuff
So this
the
is
stuff that's
this
scalable
is huge.
intelligence.
So this is not
Having
HP
no
5
health
anymore like it
scaling
was
on
in
the
Smite
goal
1. This
meant
is
that, like, if you
HP
could
per
grind it, that
second.
just felt really
So that's
underwhelming. We don't wanna
30
just blanket
every
single
tick,
unit
every
equal stats
second, 30 more
bonus,
health, 30
but
more health,
on the
30 more
overall
health
felt
on
right.
top of the
And then the extra strength is going to mean that as you're chasing people down with,
you know,
with
what you
triple
already
chains,
have
that's
built in.
now 105% strength scaling.
Pair this with
That's really
Yogis.
pretty good.
Pair this with
And then
Yogis
the
and like a
other
health
aspect is
chalice,
all
buddy, you ain't dying.
The previous version of the ability was very, very defensive aura focused, and one aspect it gave was a whole bunch of HP 5 to Ares, which means that he loses out on a lot of actually like hidden sustain that he had. We want to give that back to his non-aspect version, where he can actually kind of buff his team.
That makes more sense because there was no reason to ever go non-aspect
It's
Ares.
actually health per second, so I want to say
Never a reason.
Second, so this is actually 150 health per cast.
That's pretty
basically.
good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
So that should just help him stay in the fight. And the non-aspect version was generally doing okay, still a little underperforming. So the aspect version also getting the strength buff on chains and the in-scaling should help that out to bring it up. And then the more targeted focus to the non-aspect version.
My eye's not bothering me today. That's a W.
Awesome.
Not as
Artemis,
much.
We are nerfing her aspect of the wild. Transgressor's Fate. The base damage is going to be going down at lower levels.
Yeah.
The strength scaling is going up, and we fixed the tooltip not displaying the talent damage numbers.
Yeah, Jungle Artemis and Wave Clear Artemis was actually no joke. This aspect was very, very good at that. She could hit
It's
like
to me, it's the heal on it.
during the entire game. And even with these nerfs,
To me,
it
it's
seemed
the
really
heal
severe.
that's really strong
This
on
is
it.
still
But
a lot
I
of
guess it's a
damage to
pretty
the jungle monsters when you can kind of
okay
put
nerf.
a whole bunch of traps out at the start of the game and use them to clear.
The sustain you
So
get
this
off
should
it
just
is the part
bring
that's
that
wild to
early
me.
game kind of wave pressure and jungle clear to more reasonable levels. But we didn't want to just nerf it wholesale. Like we think late game, like it should even hit a little bit harder than it currently does. So that's why it has a little bit of extra strength scaling on the ticks.
Oh,
so it does scale a
increased
bit
strength
more than it
scaling.
does
Okay.
before.
So
As well as,
decrease
like, setting
base,
up the same
increase
stuff.
scaling.
Awesome.
So all it did was
Lewis,
really
there was a
nerf really
shift.
early game.
Initiative, her passive. We
Artemis
fixed an
won,
issue
yeah.
where it was always activating, even if somebody damaged you first.
Yeah, you always had this huge strength buff, no matter what happened.
So you always had the initiative.
Yes, you
Okay.
always had the initiative.
Feather Step. We fixed an issue where you could use it while you were crippled.
Yep, so that's counterplay that people are used to from Smite 1 that was not present in Smite 2.
And due to these bug fixes, we are going to revert some nerfs. So her Summon Suku strength scaling is going back to 80%, and her Moonlight Charge strength scaling is going back to 80%.
Yeah, we did a hot fix nerf. We hit quite a lot of things on it. We're just pulling some of those back now that we fixed some other bugs related to her.
My boy, Baron Samedi, is getting buffed.
Yeah.
Because he had a bug that we fixed. It's very similar to the last one.
Yeah.
So Baron Samedi had a bug in CA8 that reduced all enemies' damage to every target, leading to a massive overperformance across the board. After fixing this, we gave him time to settle since he had been oppressive since his original release in Smite 2. Now we're seeing him struggle to perform, so we're reverting a few of the changes we made before discovering the bug.
Decrease cooldown to 9.
Gaze,
11 scaling down to 9. Missing
Health
health heal back to 5. Okay, that's huge.
Missing health heal by quite a bit.
Yep.
And life of the
That's
party,
huge.
we're increasing the vortex strength and the vortex hysteria strength.
The other
Yep,
stuff,
all those
meh.
are reverts, and
Other
again,
stuff, meh. The missing
basically
health,
from the release to
that adds
CA8,
up a
we
lot,
had this bug.
especially if you're
We've been
healing
so
2 or
aggressive, we
3
didn't wanna try and
teammates too, because
compensate,
that's
for
that
the
all
bug,
that
and we
extra.
wanted to
That's
see
double.
how it kinda evened out after
That's a
being aggressive for that
100%
long.
buff.
It's been long enough. We can
That's a
safely
huge
now
buff.
pull
The
back
other
some
two,
things.
meh.
Fenrir,
Okay.
he is the next god, and he is getting a nerf. His brutalize empowered scaling is going from
Yep.
70 to 60%, and his Ragnarok movement speed while carrying a target is going from 75 to 40% because he is carrying someone.
Yes. Yeah. Just taking the top end damage off, and yeah, he picks someone up, so they weigh something.
While
So
carrying
now
a target,
just-
not just while
just
he's in
because
his
your
ult.
displacement is
You
going
pick
to be
somebody up,
Yeah.
and then your
the other
movement
thing
speed goes down.
maybe this is a good time to mention it, is we've
I'm
also
assuming.
fixed a bug with how movement speed was being calculated.
Specifically with Erendite and Thanatos 2.
Okay, so it doesn't.
And if we find other cases where it's wrong, we can fix it. Erendite shipped with essentially the way that it multiplied speed was too great. So like you could stack with a whole bunch of things and it would multiply out of control, which is probably why you've seen Kabrakans with Erendites running you down that look kind of like they're speed hacking. Like, that's why. We had a hotfix for that earlier. It was delayed because there were issues getting it into live. I believe our last round of hotfixes might have had it. I need to still figure that out because again, this was a very weird hotfix cycle for this specific case. And
Have you seen people use Erendite and then ult as Fenrir, and they just are 7,000 movement speed? They're not. They haven't gone into item nerfs yet. So unless you're saying you've read through it and there is no Erendite nerf, which would be wild because the item is broken.
Awesome.
But...
So we are nerfing Erendite, chat. It's okay.
Oh, all right. See,
bots,
there you go.
He's getting a shift. He relies on his ultimate for the bulk of his power, making it tough to give his other abilities meaningful impact. We're reducing the maximum crowd control it provides, adding some bonus scaling, and with this change, we can increase the potency of Overhead Smash. Overhead Smash will no longer go on cooldown if interrupted, which requires us to move the protection shred off the channel and backload it onto the actual smash.
Yeah, so when I write dev commentary, we're good.
Sweet. So the 2 now no longer has protection shred on the build-up,
He literally just
but
said out
implies
loud
the
that they're nerfing
the
Erendite,
strength
so
of
it's
the
all good,
shred
buddy.
on hit, its own damage will benefit from the protection shred, and it will go
They
on
are.
cooldown.
It'll be
and
nerfed.
It will no longer go on cooldown or consume mana if interrupted before the smash hits.
He said,
going
"Don't
on
worry,
with
we're
Fear
nerfing
Evil,
Erendite."
The main problem we had before was if you got interrupted on this really long channel, it would go on cooldown, and the reason it did was because you were getting a benefit, right? You were shredding protections, and so.
I think they should remove the base cooldown off it and 5 or 10 strength off of it and keep the passive. It is in there. I did it myself. Buff and debuff from 10 seconds to 6 seconds. Galvanized, you can't read, brother.
This just feels like a.
Just kidding. It's probably a lot to read.
To actually execute this damage, as well as now
buff and debuff from 10 seconds to 6 seconds.
Yep. And then his ultimate, Fear No Evil. Targets will now be
You're all
immune
good,
to
buddy.
fear after 3 ticks,
I'm just
making
fucking
the
with you.
maximum duration you can be feared. 1
So,
second. And we've increased. the
I
strength
think
scaling
the
from
cooldown
10%
should be
per tick
taken
to
off it
12.5%.
because
ability was
it's
kind of
basically
immune to, like, we do a lot
sufficing
of
as a
CC
starter
adjustments
item. I
based
think
off how
Erendite should be more like a
Every
luxury
god
item in my
comes in
opinion.
with generally lower CC values.
Oh, no, I mean it's in the patch. No idea if it's in the notes. Got you. Okay. Might not be in the notes, but it's in the patch.
Fear. So the way to adjust it in this case is that the top end of the fear is now only 1 second maximum.
Yeah.
Because
So it might have just not made it into the notes for some reason, but it is in OB6 is
ads.
what Clumsy
Oh,
said.
no.
I apologize. Okay, we're gonna wait for just a little
The ad
bit.
break.
I forgot that because Hinduman's out, he's normally the person who turns off the ads for us while we run the show. But I forgot about that. So I am foolish.
I mean,
Alas.
it's okay. Maybe this is a time to try and figure out the mic issue.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cause okay, so where does this actually plug into?
It plugs in here, I think. Here.
It's got to be that box, right?
Yeah. Here. I'm gonna turn this. You talk, and then
Talking. I'm testing. We will see. Am I getting
is that
louder?
better? Is it louder?
I'm
Chat?
hearing you louder.
You're hearing me louder. Oh, okay. No. Okay.
He's louder.
We will continue to test. This is
Testing.
1, 2, 3. Am I getting louder or am I getting softer? We'll see. Yes, no, maybe.
Nope,
Test.
nothing's changing now.
No? Okay.
Imagine, because I could hear you getting louder, so you can probably hear me getting louder.
You know what? I think it's...
Oh, you think you figured it out? Some audio tech is out there. Very disappointed.
I'd hate to be one of the right passionates. Would definitely
testing 1 2 3. We'll see.
Is that better? Chat.
He's still quieter than Kilgoon, but it's
1 2 3. Oh no, they hit the more ads.
Same? Oh no.
We have until the ad break.
Okay, try it again.
Testing 1 2 3. I can hear myself more.
Yeah.
Which might mean that I am
it's
louder.
it might be better than earlier. I don't even remember now.
Yes, better.
Okay. All right. Is that we got it?
Good voice.
Hey.
Better. We did it.
Look at me.
I can actually hear myself now, so that must have been how quiet I was.
Sweet. Well, we have successfully troubleshot the audio while we were on an ad break. So, success.
Yeah.
Success.
Tactical ad break.
Yeah. So, So again, Hoonbots.
They haven't touched. They haven't talked about item changes yet.
We'll see how it goes, and
Yeah.
we could always change the number of ticks it takes. So we could make it so that you're feared for slightly longer.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. This is really easy for us to adjust, but we just felt like he was going to be always in a really difficult balance spot for us if the ultimate was going to always be as strong as it was.
Yeah. Awesome. Next, Jing Wei is getting a buff. She took a big hit after we removed the knockup and damage from Persistent Gust for enemies who walked into it after its initial deployment. We're restoring these effects at a reduced strength, ensuring foes still need to respect the Gust when chasing or retreating. At the same time, this adjustment prevents her from regaining the free wave clear that originally prompted the change.
Yeah, she fell off a cliff, and we are pulling some of that back with the goal of not making her... The problem was she just could instantly clear the wave, and we have chosen these numbers to hopefully... so that she can't just immediately clear the wave, be super safe, be super efficient at farming.
Mm-hmm. So we
protection gained from grabbing a god persists for 3 seconds after the dash, and this does not apply to the aspect.
But at 60% of the initials,
20 protections up to 52. 20 protections.
And we have increased the damage
at level
scaling
2
up to 290 instead of 270.
That's pretty fucking huge.
The explosive bolts are also going to.
So if you don't go with Khepri aspect, you can get 20 protections at level 2 if you're 2, then you're 1.
Context on just like where she
20
fell,
early
she went from, like,
protections
58%
into a
win
fight
rate,
like that is
that's
fucking
within the margin depending on
huge,
the
buddy.
character, to like 40.
Yeah.
Which is like she's such
That's
a detriment
huge.
to your team that like it's
You
not
pull
want her
so
on
you
your
take
team.
you go non-aspect
So, like,
Khepri, you
she
pull
has
somebody
quite a way
and
to
play
come
with
up
20
here so we can
protections
keep
into
those
that
bolts
fight now.
safe, as well as the partial revert of the persistent gust change.
Awesome. Khepri, the abduct. The protections gained from the grabbing a god persist for 3 seconds after the dash ends. This does not apply to the aspect grab. And we increase the protections that it grants you from 10 to 50 to 20 to 52. So
How's the stock market?
lot of extra protections for Khepri, not in aspect form.
Yes, a lot of extra protections. You're going to have them for a longer period of time. And especially at the early ranks where you might be leveling your 2 or 3 to help with wave pressure, you'll have a bit more baseline bulk.
Yeah. Odin. I hear a lot of people saying Odin,
Tony Bones, thank you for the tier 1 sub, buddy.
Sweet. So his basic attacks have adjusted.
Once upon a time there was a man that was so ugly that everybody that looked at him died. That man's name, you know it.
Basically 2 seconds
Farmer.
shorter at rank 1.
Oh no.
And Gungir's Might, his 3,
Oh,
has
no.
increased the pulse intelligence scaling
So-
by 10% and the projectile strength scaling by 15%.
Yeah, the autos.
I looked at some of the item changes, okay, and here's my main concern.
Outside that,
okay,
being able to leap more frequently, especially keeping it in sync with the
Boombas
bomb combo,
has
is gonna be
attack
powerful,
speed
and
now.
then when you are going those more damage-oriented items, whether it be actual pure
Golden
offense
Blade
or kind of bruiser,
got
his
Golden
3 should
Bow
contribute
got
more
buffed.
damage, and so you should have
Objectives
more,
got nerfed.
tools for damage.
This
outside
is
of just
going
the
to
bomb
turn
combo.
into a jungler
I will
PVE
say,
meta.
passive. Common point of discussion.
Yes.
What's Design's feels
This
on
is
Odin
going to
passive?
turn into a jungler
we
PVE
literally
meta.
were just- this is
Amaterasu,
high
auto
spoilers,
attack
but we'll
characters
go
that
over
are
it.
going to be
We were just talking about,
literally
like, what
getting
Odin's
This is what
Gold
the show is
Fury
about. The show is about
by
build.
What could an
themselves
Odin
at
aspect
4
be, and
minutes,
what tools do we
completed
have
in
and
under
what
6
things can we adjust
seconds.
on him? And one of the points was we were talking
Under-
like, what would a
under
support
6
aspect form look
seconds.
Like, what would more like pure damage or aspect look like? And one
They're
idea
doing a
was,
test for
well,
a
as
different
part of an
kind of
aspect,
blink
you could bring
similar
back
to
his
Smite
old
1
passive
blink,
of,
except
like,
you can
the
alt
extra
during
sight and seeing
or except you
walls,
can
which
blink
is really
during
favorable for him.
during chained abilities.
So we kind of know the passive as a sore spot. It has you don't have any agency over it. It's just something that kind of happens to you,
Yeah.
and those types of passives generally don't feel the best. It's something that we can definitely look at for the base kit, as well as if we do an aspect, it seems like a point where we'd actually look at, and maybe the aspect more drastically changes it.
Awesome. Princess Bari seems good, but Not maybe
Sunbeam
as good
mode,
as people
sorry.
thought. I know on like day one she was a perfectly balanced 50% win rate.
I literally had to ask Max if there was an issue with his data because it came back as in ranked. Bari had a 50.00% win rate.
The most balanced god of all time.
Yeah. Yeah. She generally, if you're about average when you release as a new god, you're probably overtuned because people are learning the character. And we've watched her numbers. She's crept up a little bit, but actually not as much as we might have expected for essentially how long we'd expect people to take to learn kind of all the bell combos that are available. So our nerf here is a little more reserved. We will do more if we need to, including hotfixing more if we need to. But one common point was that the 3, especially double 3 resets off of using your ult or getting to the empowered state, was just contributing too much damage, too much poke, too much safety. So that scaling being brought down, I think, is going to be a big. It's gonna hit that power where we think we need to, and we'll look at more if we need to in the future.
Awesome. Rama, buff for him, his Astral Strike arrows now have 10% strength scaling. The Aspect already has 25% strength scaling. This will remain untouched. We aren't sure why this text is in a different font and style.
Yeah.
We just noticed it as we were scrolling through beforehand. We'll probably get it fixed afterwards.
Yes.
But,
yep. Aspect ROM performing about where you'd want him to. Unaspected ROM underperforming. And because
for the record, the PVE scaling changes are to help match the gold scaling changes we made last patch, which were pretty big. The goal was to match the previous PVE Jungle Time to Kill. It was nerfed, but it was too fast to begin with. But that's kind of separate. So the issue right now, and if you played in games with auto speed, he is somebody that takes advantage of this very often.
He's getting buffed. He is
nerfing the objectives.
So we're implementing more
plus adding attack speed to Boombas, plus buffing Sunbeam Bow, plus buffing Sunder. Right now, if he played Amaterasu jungle even, or he builds the same thing on Loki jungle, Fenrir jungle, if you go Boombas into Sunbeam Bow, you can solo Gold Fury in 6 seconds right now. That's probably, with these changes, brought down to 4 seconds on your own, which means even if you recognize it from mid lane or even dual lane, you can't get to the Gold Fury to protect it in 4 seconds. So it's going to lead to a time where junglers aren't really looking to fight anymore. They're literally just looking to solo out objectives on their own, which is going to lead to a rather frustrating meta for people to play into as they start to adopt these strategies at a variety of levels.
50% of max to 80% of max. So by fully letting it charge,
it probably won't affect too many low levels. There's probably not somebody that's going to try and do so, but as they learn it, it'll be it'll be a definite concern on gameplay.
You've probably seen the last few patches we've tried to buff him. We've given him little bits here and there, but none of them have like even remotely.
We can address the cheese simply, but outside of auto speed 0.1%, we're noticing jungle bosses aren't being killed as often as they should.
It's just because we've seen him be very resilient to actually changing in any of the metrics that we generally measure.
Do you feel like that's because they're too strong, or it's just people aren't thinking to do them?
And we thought that was still not the best.
Because in my games, a lot of times, even by 20 minutes, there's been 4 Gold Furies done, and probably at least 1 fight at Fire in 15-ish minutes. Specifically because you just don't think the people are strong enough to do them.
Flexibility there that still feels good.
Like they don't have enough items online to
but not be over.
Try that.
I just think that this passive wasn't really being utilized. And then outside of that, quality of life for the Storm Kata. If you're trying to in-hand cancel and you dash past someone, that always feels bad.
Not great.
When we were working on Aladdin, I literally
my games aren't doing objectives for like 30 minutes.
He could like follow up with people because he immediately wants to follow up with.
But I can't imagine that's because you can't. I imagine that's just because nobody's making a call or nobody's trying them from a shot call or like there's no way.
On the ult charge,
in the mid game where we made the point to
but like Smite 1 charges very little from actually letting it. It's mostly the size change.
I did not go to a single jungle objective. But was it because you couldn't do it? Like I have right now. Right now, I have carries soloing Gold Fury at 6 minutes with Soul not by themselves with Braggies.
I believe the current plan is on that day, on the Monday.
Maybe we need to make Braggies harp not proc on like, because that's the reason they can like go solo backdoor towers and whatnot too, is because Braggies hits not objectives but towers and
this ability can bounce the same god once and hit the same target twice. Additionally, Moonstrike no longer stuns gods, but its scaling
I have no idea if I could do it.
40% to 75%.
Yep. So
you could. I mean, I did
just for all emojas.
Just that last game. I did pyro, or I did gold with just Hunbats in 11 seconds.
More into the kind of
with Geb. 11 seconds.
Like, that's the kind of shift that we're making for her.
And Clumsy's been playing
with just Hunbats, not attack speed Hunbats, just regular Hunbats. Did it in about 11 seconds.
The first version we shipped to the flash test
at like 20 something minutes,
and
23 minutes.
Clumsy's made adjustments since then, so like that's why the
and it was like the third
so
gold Fury for us.
It'll actually go bounce, bounce, bounce. So this person will actually get hit twice, which means that it has more potential damage scaling. He's been tweaking a lot of stuff related to it, so we may even have some stuff I don't know is on the notes here, but essentially we wanted to focus her to be more of that like kind of damage dealer, and we've made even adjustments since the first flash test to even push that further.
Awesome. Zeus is getting a buff. His Chain Lightning, the cooldown is going to now scale down as you level it up.
Yep.
Speaking of bouncing gods.
Yeah, so this one's interesting. I saw actually someone ask in the chat, because Zeus is a jungler, carry, and mid in our god sorting. He is now only a carry and a mid. He actually is played more in the carry role, and our goal is for him to be pretty split 50-50. So our hope here is that the lower cooldown in this means that he's more able to like actually bounce this, get consistent damage off in team fights, especially the mage style of play. So that's why this changes here is to help that kind of mage Zeus play style.
Trying to find something.
Item balance.
While they're talking
Runeforged. New item.
Yep.
2,600 gold, 40 strength, 400 max health, 5 health regen. Passive. After applying hard crowd control to an enemy god, mark them with a rune for 5 seconds. Basic attack them to forge that rune, dealing 50 plus 50% of your item protections as magical damage. This can only occur once every 40 seconds. Hard crowd control applied to enemy gods while on cooldown reduces this cooldown by 3 seconds.
Yep. So
and we don't have the builds from in here, but it does build from things.
It does build from things. It's off War Axe. It's off the strength health item. I don't remember the other side of it.
It's all right.
Odigba? I think it's Odigba. But yeah, so Runeforged Hammer, it's kind of bringing back that style of bonus damage, right? People are CC'd, but in a more direct impact way that requires some follow-up, and then gives you kind of an incentive to continue to hard CC the enemy team to get more and more of this reduced so you can activate it more often. We think this is just a nice spin on the theme of Runeforged Hammer, bringing it over to Smite 2, and it also feels like a niche of this really high health and decent strength item.
Awesome. Another new item on Chile, a 2450 gold item with 60 magic protection, 250 max health. Passive of you take 10% reduced basic attack damage. Taking basic attack damage reduces this item cooldown by 2 seconds. And active of your next ability that damages an enemy god will silence them for 1.5 seconds with an 80-second cooldown.
Yeah, I've definitely seen, it's been interesting watching people discuss this item. This one is really meant to kind of fill that anti-ADC, magical ADC role. So your souls of the world, largely, like you kind of want to deal with that. And the silence effect feels like it's a little counterintuitive to that, but a lot of the mage ADCs have very strong abilities, like being able to stop a soul from potentially escaping with her 3 is actually really impactful. And also for Ancile, it was kind of this very niche application item, and we think that it's going to actually serve better in this purpose, where generally you always want to be reducing basic attack damage as a carry, so as a tank, so it's like always kind of good for you there. And the way this works is actually really interesting. It says your next ability silences, not the first time your ability deals damage to a god it silences. Your Raw 3, if you have this item, will silence for the whole duration of the Raw 3 once per target. Okay. So if they walk into it, they will be silenced for 1.5 seconds. Someone walks in 3 seconds later, they will also be silenced. So it's your next ability silences, which is also just a really cool feature of this. This has a lot of potential.
Yeah, that's fun.
Like Anubis ult, your Anubis ult could also be a silencing laser, which is just really neat.
That
I think this item has a lot of top-end potential. Just a cool effect.
I like it. We also have a new starter item, Vampiric Shroud. 650 gold, 20 intelligence, 75 max health. Passive, damaging an enemy with an ability, heals 3 health and 4 mana once per target per ability. You heal an additional 3 mana and 3 health and 4 mana if this was a god. Requires level 20 to upgrade. I can't read today. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, this one, I when I was writing it, I was like, should I just say heal double? But
yeah.
I felt like I should be more explicit because I didn't know if these numbers would change in the future. But yeah, this is the kind of intelligent scaling bruiser item. We've kind of been missing that. You would have to go like War Axe, or you'd have to sacrifice early lane tankiness to get int scaling if you wanted it. This just feels like a natural fit that we were missing. And the Anubises of the world really like this, but also your intelligent scaling soul laners really like this. So just a nice add. And we did, on the upgrade of it, we did add a little bit of extra flavor.
So here's an example.
So if we just the upgrade.
9 minutes and 45 seconds into the game.
But for every kill you
and
have
this was just a
game,
random game I played with auto speed, like as an example of what you can do.
The more soaked in blood,
9 minutes 45 seconds.
Yeah, so if you have 8 kills when you get this, 9 kills, and as you get more kills,
it's a little bit tankier now. But when it first spawns, it's really easy to kill.
Quite a lot of healing pretty quick if you've been doing well that game.
That's cool. I like it.
So about 12 seconds on his own
It no longer provides 50
without
mana,
being low health at all.
10%
And that's at 10 minutes, so it's obviously scaled its health a little bit. So that was around 11 seconds for him to solo that on his own. Now you add attack speed to Boombas and possibly give jungles... I don't know if they'll actually go Sunder or not, but...
versus Cudgel did not have clear identities. Because Cudgel was...
he had Boombas and Sunbeam Bow right there is what he had.
And for in-hand junglers,
and a 10-minute Gold Fury by himself in about 10 seconds.
So we just made
and now attack speed, add the attack speed to Boombas.
It's now more clear. If you're an in-hand focused jungler that wants to just
and reduce the health on it by whatever it was, like 600-700,
in-hand cancel because you're more
400 or 500.
Then you can go Cudgel, and we changed
still relatively concerned,
pretty drastically.
We'll see.
Has a complete new stat spread. We got rid of the killing things heals you a lot and gives you a flat amount of int and strength. To now be that you also have the cleave damage that triggers on everything, not just jungle monsters anymore. So we just think this is a much more clear. It's much more clear what this item's trying to do and who it's for.
Yep, very cool. Demonic Grip is getting a buff. It is getting 10 more intelligence, and we have fixed the tooltip stating that it provided 7.5 penetration per stack. It was giving 6, so that's just a text update.
Yeah, so we actually had an initially larger buff because we thought that it was giving 7.5, but we found that no, it was actually giving 6. So this item just underutilized, especially for like the kind of like hybrid scaling or magical ADCs. So it's getting stronger.
We are buffing Eye of Providence. It's getting 5 more of each protection.
Yep, just an item we think is underutilized. Could use a little bit of extra protections.
And I assume we have similar feelings about Helm of Radiance, which is getting 10 extra physical protection. And we have decreased the stack count, but we've increased the protections per stack. So
it ends up being a little bit higher. But yeah, we just think this needs to be a stronger kind of anti-physical damage item, and this should help it out in that role.
And Gauntlet of Thebes getting
25% attack speed on Boomba Spear.
Bonus for max stacks from 10 to 15.
Yep. Just a nice buff, and we were previously worried that this would become like the default go-to again. We think that we have enough variety and support items that this can survive.
25% attack speed on Boomba Spear. So if you go Boomba Spear, Sunbeam Bow, Braggies, you are probably clearing Gold Fury by yourself in anywhere between 5 to 10 seconds by yourself.
Scaling from 10%.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Leaning even more into that identity as being for slightly tankier characters.
Yeah,
that's the main concern about these changes.
Wave clear, but like that just doesn't feel like it needs to be a specific identity. It always kind of pigeonholes it into being not that useful late game. We think it's a much more interesting item if it's something that people can flex later after they build a whole bunch of protections and be stronger for it.
But my Horus, Horus Solo,
it'll still be good.
First item, Golden Blade, and Smite 1 is just like the most fun. Anyway.
20 is still pretty good.
Yes. Anyway, pretty good. Leviathan getting a buff, increased physical protection. Again, just underpicked.
Yep.
Sunbeam Bow is getting a buff with increased strength, increased intelligence, and increased attack speed.
Yeah, this was very popular. We did some stat adjustments to it. It fell off really hard, and we think that we can pretty safely bring back some of the strength of it.
Sunder is getting a buff. It was the least purchased and performing relic. We want to give it more offensive lethality, but allow players to more frequently use its effect to quickly farm the jungle and make it easier to have it available for objective control.
Well, in like the last day and a half, its usage rate has gone up.
Yes.
For obvious reasons. Maybe we don't need to do this buff. No, we still need to do this buff. Yeah, we just want it to be more offensively utilized, but also if you're using it to clear the jungle, we want you to actually have that access that more frequently. So offensively using on gods, longer cooldown, but more damage. Or if you're using it to clear, you get this more frequently.
Yep. And then War Flag Selflessness is going to have decreased bonus gold earn because we made a lot of other pacing changes, and this was a little bit OP.
Decreased gold, that's good.
Yeah, this actually reflects about roughly the change that we expect our gold pacing changes to be, about this percentage of it, and we just felt like supports ended up creeping a little bit too close in the gold count. This also was part of some other discussions around other modes and how this item affects other modes. We don't have anything in OB6 for that specifically, but that is something that is on our radar. This is not to address that feedback. This is to address specifically the conquest pacing issues.
Awesome. Hydra's Lament was providing extra mana instead of mana regen, so we fixed that and we decreased the amount of mana regen it provides.
Yeah. If we actually just gave it the amount of MP5 flat, you basically made up for that mana that it was giving in like a wave and a half, 2 waves. So we feel like if we fix it, it just becomes way stronger. You literally never run out of mana. So we toned down that mana regen.
Awesome. And then there's some bug fixes. Quality of life. The side teleporter now shows its cooldown in world like the base teleporters do. So it's easier to tell why you can't use it when it doesn't work. And the brute anti-magic shield effects can now be seen from behind the minion.
Yep.
So easier to identify brutes. Princess Bari, her enhanced warding gust cone FX will now play more consistently.
Yep.
And we have fixed the jump stamp lobby preview for hot sauce and heart candy, so they no longer drop through the floor. And the voice actor for Stumbleblade Susanoo is Jacob Browning.
Nice.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I realized we actually basically went to time off that.
And I have more things that I need to say real quick.
Oh, gosh.
But I will be relatively quick with these. I have one more thing to mention for Smite 2. The Winged Terror Odin skin. We goofed, and we labeled that as an epic skin when we should have labeled it as a legendary skin. We're going to keep it on sale at its current price through the end of OB6, but it will be reclassified to be a legendary skin. At the end of OB6, the price will go up to the normal legendary skin pricing. So if that's a skin that you were sitting on the fence for, I would recommend getting it before the price goes up because we will properly classify it. So that's just a heads up that we goofed and we're going to fix it, but we're giving you a little bit of time to